All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at The Volume. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Hope all of you guys are having a great week so far. Well. We had talked about how this was an incredibly boring NBA offseason, but not anymore. A bomb goes off today in the NBA. Damian Lillard finally gets traded, and not to any of the destinations that had been hinted. He's going to the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks are getting Damian Lillard. The Blazers are getting Jrue Holiday and DeAndre Ayton and some draft compensation. And the Suns are getting Yusuf Nurkic and Grayson Allen and a couple of other role players from the Blazers as well. All hell is breaking loose. And we have a new championship favorite going into the season, one that's probably going to disrupt my power rankings quite a bit, obviously for all the teams involved, which we'll get to later on this week. But today I just want to focus on this trade and all of the fallout for it. I have 6 different pieces of fallout from this. 1, Portland not trading Dame to Miami. What does that mean? 2, Damian Lillard and Giannis together with the Bucks. What does that look like? 3, the Blazers getting a young big man for their guard core. What does that mean? 4, where will Jrue Holiday end up? 5, do the Suns have enough athleticism and talent in their front court? And 6, what do the Miami Heat do now? So all sorts of fallout from this incredibly interesting trade. We're going to break it all down. You guys know the drill. Before we get started, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter at _JasonLT. Don't forget about our podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts under Hoops Tonight. And continue to drop mailbag questions in the YouTube comments so I can continue to hit those at the end of the shows. All right, let's talk some basketball. So let's start with the Portland trading Dame to Miami. So again, the conundrum here, and I saw both sides of it, was like Portland wants to do what's best for the franchise, but then there's the Damian Lillard element. He's been here for over a decade. He's done everything for this franchise. Like, you want to take care of him. You don't want to vindictively send him somewhere else, right? So like those two purposes were kind of competing against each other. And the problem was there wasn't a trade out there, at least that had been pitched, that successfully addressed both concerns. A trade that was what was best for Portland and what was best for Dame. It was a tough thing to find out there. And I think that was the position of negotiating leverage that Pat Riley was coming from. I think that's why he was being stingy with the assets he was offering in the deal. I think he just didn't realize that something like this would materialize, and that's what this ended up being. This ended up being the magical trade that took care of both. Because not only does Portland get an asset back that actually makes a lot more sense for them in the big picture in DeAndre Ayton, and another asset in Jrue Holiday that they can flip for draft compensation. So Portland got what they wanted out of the deal. But Damian Lillard is now going to a basketball situation that is not only great, I'd argue it's a better basketball situation than Miami. Now, it's not the market that Miami is, and I'm sure that there was some elements to that Dame was looking forward to, but you cannot look at this situation and think that Portland vindictively sent Dame somewhere that he didn't want to go. Dame is going to love being in Milwaukee. He's going to love playing with Giannis. He's now on the championship favorite, and this is his best opportunity to win an NBA championship in his long NBA career. So this magical scenario arose, and then Pat Riley gets squeezed. So honestly, like, this is probably the best possible outcome to this situation. This was the outcome that I didn't think was possible. Obviously, the outcome that Pat Riley didn't think was possible, and patience ended up paying off for the Blazers. So kudos to them, kudos to Dame. This is going to be really exciting. Now, next phase of this whole storyline, Damian Lillard and Giannis together with the Bucks. So one of my biggest critiques of the Dame era in Portland is that they never gave him what he needed to compete, right? So what do I always talk about on this show? Unless you are like absurdly good offensively as a team, which Portland never really was, unless you were absurdly good offensively, you need a dominant defensive front court. That's what NBA history has taught us. If you go back in NBA history, this Jokic-Gordon front court was probably the worst defensive front court of any team to win a title in the last several decades, right? But the backstory there is it's the most unguardable offensive player in the NBA, and flanked by 4 role players that complement him perfectly, to basically putting together the most unguardable offense that we've seen in recent NBA history, right? So that was why they're the exception that proves the rule. As we go back, it's all defensive front courts, right? It's Draymond Green and Andrew Wiggins. It's Giannis Antetokounmpo and Brook Lopez. It's LeBron James and Anthony Davis. It's Kawhi Leonard, Serge Ibaka, and Marc Gasol. It's Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, and Andre Iguodala. Like, we can go back and go back and go back, but it's all dominant defensive front courts, right? So from that standpoint, that should be a prerequisite to contending in the modern NBA, especially when you have a small guard that you're a fulcrum, that you're using as a fulcrum. Look at Steph with Golden State, right? Like, everyone looks at Steph as one of the best offensive players of this era, and that's what he is. But the 2015 Warriors were one of the best defenses in the league. So was the 2016 and 2017 Warriors, right? Like, you guys get the point. Like, this team had a defensive foundation built on Draymond Green, one of the best defensive fulcrums of this era, and Andre Iguodala, one of the best perimeter defenders of this era, one of the most versatile defenders of this era, right? Like, at the end of the day, that's what you need to give your your offensive-oriented backcourt their best opportunity to win. And Portland never did that. Not at any point during the Damian Lillard era did they even have an above-average defensive front court, let alone a defensive front court that had a chance to contend. So what I'm really excited about is seeing Damian Lillard flanked by the type of defensive front court he needs to be able to contend for championships. Giannis, Antetokounmpo, and Brook Lopez are arguably the best defensive front court in the league. We're going to talk about it later, but that's kind of the pairing of that with the pull-up shooting of Dame is actually kind of the ideal basketball situation you'd like to have the best chance to beat the Denver Nuggets and the Nikola Jokic problem, right? And we'll get into that in a little bit, but this is what you were hoping for a Dame situation. If you're building a Damian Lillard team from scratch, this is what you're looking for. You want a big forward that can take care of some of the higher level shot making, right? Like with Khris Middleton, that would help, obviously. Not that Dame can't do that stuff, but it just is a different type of punch, right? You want an excellent screen and roll partner. That's Giannis. You ideally a screen and pop partner as well. That's Brook Lopez. And you want a dominant defensive front court that can make up for his defensive limitations. It's about crafting easier jobs for limited point of attack personnel, right? Like, when you don't have a good defensive front line, you have to ask your perimeter defenders to do a lot, because if they don't contain the ball, it's going to be layup city on the back end, right? When you have an elite defensive front court, you can be like, hey, Dame, all I need you to do is get over the top of that screen and just force him to drive into me. That's all you need to do. You don't need to block his shot. You don't need to keep him in front of you off the dribble. You need to prevent him from taking easy pull-up threes and prevent him from taking easy pull-up jumpers and mid-range shots, right? Mid-range shots and floaters on his way downhill and pick and roll. If you can do that, we'll take care of the rest, right? They can craft for Dame an achievable defensive role. And that's the beauty of having a dominant defensive front court next to a limited defensive guard. So game planning for the Bucks now is totally different. Dame is a better half-court offensive player than Giannis. That's just a fact at this point. Here's what you're getting for Damian Lillard, right? You're getting 32 points, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists per game last year on an outrageous 65% true shooting. He was the second best high-volume pick-and-roll player in the league last year. Only 15 players ran at least 1,000 pick-and-rolls. Dame was second on that list behind Luka Doncic at 1.14 points per possession. He was also the third best ISO guy in the league. Out of the 25 players in the NBA to run at least 250 ISOs, Dame finished third behind Joel Embiid and DeMar DeRozan at 1.13 points per possession. He shot 54% in effective field goal percentage on pull-up jump shots. He shot 56% in effective field goal percentage on catch-and-shoot jump shots. He's still one of the best rim finishing guards in the league. As a matter of fact, among guards below 6'3", he's second to Ja Morant in restricted area makes per game, and he shoots 63% there, which is off the charts for a small guard. And to top it all off, he's one of the better passers in the league. So to be clear, to put it simply, you are getting one of the very best half-court shot creators in the NBA. And now you're adding Giannis Antetokounmpo as a pick-and-roll partner with him. Part of the issue, this is why I pitched potentially a James Harden for Jrue Holiday switch in the past, is as good as Jrue Holiday is, and he's an excellent player, we're going to talk about him in a little bit, he's not a very high-level pick-and-roll passer, right? And he's not the type of really, really deadly pull-up shooter that forces defenses to deploy really aggressive pick-and-roll coverages, right? Like, you're going to live with Jrue Holiday taking pull-up threes. You're going to live with Jrue Holiday in pick-and-roll against drop coverage trying to pick you apart. You cannot do that with Dame. You absolutely have to show high. At the minimum, you have to show high. Probably going to have to blitz a lot. Now, let's imagine that scenario where Damian Lillard has a Giannis Antetokounmpo ball screen, a good solid ball screen that gets Dame separation. He's going to take and make pull-up threes all day long unless you show high with the screen defender. If you show high with the screen defender, then what happens? It's a pocket pass to Giannis barreling down the floor in a 4-on-3 with Brook Lopez in the dunker spot and Khris Middleton on the wing and probably someone like Pat Connaughton on the other wing, right? That's what you're getting. That's the dynamic that you're opening up by giving Giannis Antetokounmpo a real pick and roll ball handler at a higher level. Not to say that Jrue's not a real one, but Dame's just at an entirely different level there, right? Not to mention all of the things that open up in pick and pop situations that you get from Brook Lopez, who obviously has the ability to pick and pop. Pick and pop opens up a whole other list of issues for a defense when you have a high level shot creator like Damian Lillard. He is going to overnight turn them into a much, much, much tougher team to guard in the half court. And half court offense in slow down situations has been the one Achilles heel for this Milwaukee Bucks team. They've consistently defended at a championship level, and containing Giannis in the big picture of a basketball game and his athleticism, what he brings to the table, is such a royal pain in the ass. And now you're adding to that he can't even be the primary game plan for your half court defense. Everything is going to have to start with, how the hell are we going to guard Dame in pick and roll? I love this steal. It makes so much sense for Dame. It makes so much sense for Giannis. I love the way that they've continually taken care of Giannis. Guys, we always talk about player movement in the NBA and, what about small market teams? And what about, everyone wants to go to the Lakers. Giannis is going to stay in Milwaukee. You know why? Because he got a little antsy once. They got him Jrue Holiday. He won a championship. Then he got a little antsy this summer. They got him Damian Lillard. Now he's the favorite to win a championship. He is now, I guarantee you, he has a bigger margin for error with this team now. If 4 or 5 years go by and they're having some issues, he's going to trust them because time and time again, they've come through for him and brought him the tools that he needs to compete for championships. This is how it's done. This is small market basketball done right. This is how the Milwaukee Bucks are going to keep one of the top 2 players in the league in the long term. In Milwaukee, of all places.
For a limited time, you can save up to 40% off on an NFL Plus premium annual subscription when you sign up through Plus Play from Verizon. Plus Play. It is a platform where you can shop, manage, and save on the subscriptions you already love, like NFL Plus. With NFL Plus Premium, you get access to live games on mobile, NFL Red Zone, NFL Network, and more. So you can watch multiple games all at once on any screen around you for updates. Never miss a touchdown. That simple. And for fantasy players, NFL Plus Premium makes all the difference. Access to programming like Fantasy Live through the NFL Network, Red Zone for tracking player performances on a Sunday, access to live local and primetime games, access to Fantasy Plus. Just go to verizon.com/NFL to get NFL Plus Premium today. 40% off, that's 40% off an annual subscription, just $59.99 for the full season. Get it before it's gone.
We're back with another week of football, and DraftKings Sportsbook is keeping us in on the NFL action with great offers every single game day. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Throw $5 down on any of this week's epic matchups and walk away an instant winner. And DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every single game day this September. Football's more fun when you're in on the action. So download the app now and sign up with code HOOPS. New customers can bet just $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on the DraftKings Sportsbook app, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, with code HOOPS. That's HOOPS. The crown is yours. We will do a deeper dive on the Bucks when we get to their season preview next week. I do want to say, again, what I'm excited about is the Denver matchup. Because you got to think, if you wanted to guard Denver and score on Denver, there's 2 things you have to be able to do. Defensively, in the front court, you have to be able to have a guy that can reasonably bang with Nikola Jokic in the post. Just reasonable. You don't need him to stop him, but you need to make him at least work a little bit. And then ideally, you have really good backline help. But that's where Nikola Jokic's passing can be a problem. So ideally, you want someone in the backline that can be two places at once. A guy that can help at the rim while simultaneously being able to rotate out to shooters and dissuade them from taking shots. Giannis is one of like 2 or 3 guys in the league that can do that. So I love the idea of the Brook Lopez and Giannis backcourt, or front court, I should say, dealing with the Nikola Jokic problem. And then on the other end of the floor, you have to have an offense that can successfully stretch Denver out while at the same time taking advantage of their lack of rim protection. Damian Lillard unlocks that most important part, the consistent ability to stretch their defense out. And when you combine that with the relentless rim attack of Giannis, they have the ideal type of basketball team construct to knock off this Denver team. So I love the deal for the Bucks. I think it makes a ton of sense. And now all of a sudden, we have a very, very interesting championship favorite this year. The Blazers. Look at this. You just brought in DeAndre Ayton. I don't love DeAndre Ayton. Obviously, he leaves a lot to be desired in terms of his motor and his commitment defensively. But here's what he is. He's at the very least, when he's engaged, an average defensive fulcrum. Certainly better than Jusuf Nurkic, right? And he's a great screen and roll big with great hands who catches everything and finishes everything around the rim. I cannot think of a better player to bring in properly within this timeline to flank Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, and Anthony Simons. You're giving them a defensive fulcrum, and you're giving them an excellent pick and roll partner. I think it makes a ton of sense. And then you also brought in Jrue Holiday, who will inevitably get flipped in the next few days for even more asset return. I just did a quick little list of teams that could potentially talk themselves into needing Jrue Holiday and making a move. Philly, the Knicks, the Raptors, the Sacramento Kings, the Clippers, the Warriors, the Timberwolves, the Pelicans, the Mavs. There are a lot of teams that are going to be making calls about Jrue Holiday. I mean, it'd be pretty freaking hilarious if the Heat had to make a call, right? Like, hey, you guys interested in Tyler Herro now? The Suns. So obviously, Jusuf Nurkic is a significant downgrade from DeAndre Ayton. But Grayson Allen is a good player. Grayson Allen was one of the very best spot-up players in the league last year. Out of 126 players to log at least 200 spot-up possessions, Grayson Allen's 1.26 points per possession ranked second on that list. So one of the best spot-up players in the league, and he's also a guy who competes defensively and is a good athlete. Nasir Little is a interesting young wing in the league who's on a long-term deal at a good number, so obviously some value there. And basically, I guess you could talk yourself into saying that they turned Ayton's contract into multiple mid-level salaries that are easier to move, so they increased their flexibility. And so I have to think that they're targeting something more in the long run, because my thing is like front court was the biggest weakness of this roster, and Ayton's just better than Jusuf Nurkic. So I think the Suns today are a worse basketball team than they were yesterday. And so I wonder in the big picture if they have a plan to target forwards, and they have multiple in mind, and these are the mid-level salaries they need to pull that off. Like, maybe that's the plan. But I have to think that there's a bigger picture plan to bolster the front court for Phoenix, because I just have a hard time believing that they would downgrade like that at the center position, unless they're way higher on Nurkic than I am, which, who knows how their front office feels about him. Last but not least, what do the Miami Heat do now? They have to do something, right? Like, not only was talent a massive issue for you in last year's playoff run, as you overcame that through crazy hot shooting, an excellent coaching performance from Eric Spoelstra, and Jimmy Butler just becoming Superman in the first round series against the Bucks, right? But like, talent's an issue. You need talent. So like, again, calling about Jrue Holiday would be hilarious, but do they audible and go after James Harden? I guarantee you if you don't want to give up too much in the way of assets, that's a deal that makes sense. Do you go after Zach LaVine? Do you go after DeMar DeRozan? Training camp is right around the corner. I would not be surprised if the Heat audibled and made a more splashy deal within the next few days as well. And whenever that happens, we will cover it. Again, we're going to cover the Bucks in more detail when we get to their season preview. When Jrue Holiday gets traded, we'll do a reaction video to that. And when the Heat do something, we'll do a reaction video to that as well. As always, I appreciate you guys. We'll get back to our power rankings tomorrow. Don't forget about mailbag questions, and I will see you guys then.